Dental insurance companies are robbing practices blind. They make you reduce your fees by 30 to 50% while making you work 200 to 300% harder for the same profit. We dropped 7 insurance networks in 3 years and never lost more than 30% of any patient pool of a network that we dropped. You can too. For the first couple of years after starting my practice, we were becoming exhausted with dental insurance companies and the administrative burden that it was causing. Hours on the phone, chasing down claims, dealing with patients who were confused about their benefits not paying like they expected them to. But honestly, the worst part was the tension that it caused between the relationship of me and my patient, because there was this third-party middleman sitting in the way, pitting us against each other. I finally said, enough. And I found a way to drop these insurance companies and build systems to actually create a better relationship between me and my patient. On the flip side of this, I've heard other offices that drop insurance networks. They sort of take a rip the Band-Aid off approach and drop the insurance company, but in the meantime, they lose tons of patients. I'm talking 50% and over, because they didn't do it with intention, they didn't do it with a system, they didn't do it appropriately, and they didn't take the time to educate their patients so that they could actually keep the patients that they have while not being insurance dependent. We're going to walk through the systems that I used to effectively drop 7 insurance networks while never losing more than 30% of any of the patients within that network. Let's get into it. When dropping insurance networks, the first step is to lead with compassion. Oftentimes, these patients have an emotional tie to the dental insurance that brings them some sense of security. So you have to get ahead of it. When you drop an insurance network, that insurance company is going to send that patient a letter telling them they can't come to see you anymore, it's going to be expensive, and you have to educate them and prepare them before any of that happens. We took the time to do this appropriately. We wrote each patient a letter that was very clear on why we were doing this and what was in it for them. This letter included things about how we cared for them, how we didn't want to sacrifice quality, how we had lots of alternatives for them, how they were not the only patient that was being affected by this, and that most importantly, our relationship with them was number one. By taking 4 to 6 months to do this appropriately, educate your patients, send out letters, make that investment, you're going to lose far more patients than someone who just rips the Band-Aid off and drops that insurance network. This investment is key and is much more affordable than you losing a ton of patients. The second step in effectively dropping insurance networks without losing a ton of patients is you have to give them an alternative. You have to offer them something. So I talked about the letter that we wrote to patients, the education that we gave them. It needs to be very clear. You refuse to use lesser quality materials. You refuse to use cheaper labs. The staff that they've grown to love, you refuse to get rid of for cheaper, less quality staff. And finally, you refuse to fit within a reimbursement grid that causes you to lower your standards and your quality. The only thing that you need to offer them is an in-house membership plan. This is going to appeal to a lot of patients because it's going to be very clear and defined and allow you to not nickel and dime them when they need to come in for things like an x-ray or an exam. By offering people these alternatives, you give them very clear choices, you get ahead of the insurance companies, as well as you make people feel tied to your office and that this isn't going to be the only patient that gets affected by this insurance network being dropped. Let me be clear, I'm not some Beverly Hills dentist that's doing huge veneer cases every day. We're doing quadrant dentistry, high quality, predictable, but you can still get reimbursed appropriately and not be slaves to the dental insurance reimbursement fees, but not lose a ton of patients along the way. The third step is you have to highly train your team, especially the front desk, who's going to be fielding most of the phone calls. This is a huge investment. My advice, take an afternoon, take a day, whatever it takes to make your staff feel comfortable to answer some of the most frequently asked questions that patients are going to want to know when they get the news that you are no longer going to be in-network or a restricted provider with their insurance company. By doing this, you are going to look professional, your staff is going to feel comfortable, and they're going to buy into the vision of why you're doing this in the first place. They need to be able to answer questions like, well, my insurance company wrote me a letter that says I can't see you anymore. They can say, Thank you for letting me know. Just so you know, we have a lot of patients with your same provider that still are able to come and see us. And the good news is, with us not being restricted by your insurance company, we're able to offer you the highest quality care without being burdened or bogged down or put into a box by your insurance company. By training them appropriately, they are going to feel prepared and you are going to lose less patients. This is really important that you analyze your staff and make sure that they are all bought into this vision. One hint of a staff member that has an interaction with a patient that says something like, "I don't know why the doctor dropped this plan. I know it's too expensive. I'm not sure what he's doing." One hint of that will kill the whole mission. So if your staff isn't as bought in as you are, you need to analyze that very carefully. But by having a highly trained staff, you are going to lose less patients by communicating effectively. The fourth and final step to effectively drop insurance networks without losing a ton of patients is to create a story and a sense of belonging. When a patient calls and feels isolated and they feel targeted because you dropped their insurance network, you need to have a story to tell them that makes them feel better. One of the things that we implemented in our office is relating to people through stories. So when a patient calls and says, "I need to cancel," your office staff can say, "Thank you so much for calling us and letting us know. We love having you as a patient. Just so you know, we have several other patients that are just like you, who we are no longer a restricted provider with their insurance company, that have stayed with our office, and they have been so pleasantly surprised to see that we are able to offer them the utmost care without being restricted by their insurance carrier, and their out-of-pocket is really not that high. They're still able to maximize their benefits here." They're going to feel included. They're going to not feel so alone. And that one line alone of saying that we have other people that are just like you who are still being seen here and maximizing their benefits will save you so many cancellations you won't even believe. So create a story and a narrative that helps people feel bought in and included in your practice, even after you've made a significant change like dropping their insurance network. If you're tired of insurance companies dictating your fees, your schedule, your patient base, and even your team culture, the good news is you can drop them. You can become insurance independent. Just don't do it blindly. Do it with intention. Do it with systems. Utilize your office staff to communicate to patients effectively. Help your patients see that they can stay with you, save money, and get quality care. Trust me, your future self will thank you the more and more you become less insurance dependent. And to give you a word of encouragement, if you try and you have to go get back in network with an insurance company because you lost a lot of patients, you're one step closer to being less insurance dependent. If you want to drop insurance networks, get control of your fees and your schedule, stay tuned. We have a lot more content coming.